one of my favorite shows on TV is The Shield. I don't know if you've watched it.
No, I haven't.
But it's from, I think, the early 2000s. It happens in Los Angeles. It's a corrupt police officer, but it treats a lot of ethnicities that live in Los Angeles that maybe most Americans are vaguely aware of, such as the Armenians and so on. And you've often had very incisive observations about ethnicities, cultures that are not normally a part of American discourse, media or public sphere. The normal discourse is very, it's not nuanced, and it's very based on the black-white thing, you know. But, for example, what you've said about, I mean, you are from Los Angeles, just so audience knows, and you have a lot of insight on what's been happening there for the last 2 decades. Your observations about Armenians and other ex-Soviet Union ethnicities in Los Angeles have been very vivid and interesting. I was wondering if you'd elaborate on this and what you think the future of Los Angeles might be, if these groups might become more important and so on.
Yeah, I mean, I just did a podcast yesterday. It'll be out in a week or so, probably about the time this one comes out, with a fellow in Los Angeles whose title of his podcast is The Filthy Armenian. So we talked a lot about these topics, but I mean, basically there's 2 general sets of Armenians in Southern California. There's kind of the ones who came early in the 20th century, before and after the Ottoman genocide of Armenians, and they went to places like Fresno and Glendale in Southern California, and have generally done quite well, have become, respectable bourgeois people, and are not as economically or intellectually dominant as say the Ashkenazis of Southern California, but have done very well. And then there's kind of a second group that emerged pretty much with the fall of the Soviet Union, and they're a little more trouble.
Yes.
If in my neighborhood you hear about 4 people got shot in a restaurant, you go, were they Armenians? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so Mark Krikorian of the Center for Immigration Studies pointed out to me 15 or 20 years ago. You can kind of guess ahead of time from the last 3 letters of the name. Old Armenians like Krikorian, their names end with IAN, and they typically got here, their grandparents or great-grandparents got here, and they're highly assimilated, and also they tended to come from the western part of the sprawling region of Armenia, often up against, out near the Mediterranean, and even before they came, were more influenced by the West and so forth. And then the more recent arrivals, typically from the Soviet Union, their names end in YAN, and they tend to come from the more eastern inland region, or probably more remote from European civilization, the influence of France and the influence of Crusaders and all that. And the Soviet Union was not a real school for, cooperative ethical behavior. So, if you're gonna see some gangstery type activity involving Armenians, it's like 80% of the time it's going to be a YAN type name. So that's my big Armenian insight.
Yes, I know. I've spent some time in Los Angeles. I think it's Zanku Chicken. Mm-hmm. You could go there late night, and there'd be a guy come in a tracksuit and so on. And it reminds me of a lot of right-wing people complain, I think, quite rightly about third world immigration, but they forget that in parts of the West, for example, if you go to Iceland, the big complaints will be about Lithuanians in terms of crime and just brutishness and so forth. And you had this line in a blog post about how, well, if the Anglo wants to give up control of this really paradisiacal real estate of California, there are going to be these other ethnic groups that are very, let's say, brutish and enterprising, like the Armenians or other, let's say, gold chain groups who would move in.